Max shows Charles how to win the driver's title. Mercedes show pace against Ferrari. Could the championship be over already?
Yes.
Welcome to the Late Night Race Review.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Belgian Grand Prix episode of the Late Night Race Review. I'm Dave Jericho, and we're back to a full house this week. So joining me is Owen Scott and Isidro Gonzalez. Don't forget, give us a follow or subscribe if you haven't already. We have some big updates coming for the cast over the next little while, so keep tuned and see what's going on with that. For now, though, it's all about the Belgian Grand Prix. What do you think, everyone? I have to say, I enjoyed it. I was expecting a lot more from it, given that it was a mixed up grid the way it was. But Verstappen dominated. I expected him to not get up to the front as quick as he did. So it sort of, for me, it kind of took a bit of the enjoyment away. I wanted to see a bit more of a struggle getting up to the front. But that being said, I did enjoy it, though. What did you think, Scotty?
Yeah, I loved it. I got what I expected as well. Ferrari messing up in certain parts and more pit wall madness, and Max being an absolute beast. It was fantastic. I personally, I loved seeing him just lap after lap, just taking people. It was brilliant. I loved it.
Yeah, no, it was. He was absolutely a baller today. So he was. What'd you make of it, Isidro?
It was a great race, dramatic start, but overall it was very good.
Yeah,
the safety car at the beginning made the slow start of the race, but the rest of the 39 laps was very good.
Yeah, I mean, look, I mentioned there just kind of on my opinion of the race, Max Verstappen. And I mean, let's start out by saying like it was one hell of a performance from Max. I mean, I have to say it is up there with one of the best. Dominating drive again, went from P14 on the grid to take the win. He's also now becomes only the third driver to take a win at the Belgian Grand Prix when starting outside the top 10. So I mean, he's joining names like Jim Clark in 62 and Schumacher in 95. So it's a nice little group to be involved in there. But he stretches lead even further in the championship, and I mean, surely he's made a statement with that performance today. What did you think, Scotty? What did you make of the drive? And again, where does he go from here? How does it get better for him from here?
It was just flawless, absolutely flawless. And pre to the summer break, I kind of had little not doubts, obviously, but I just had these little niggles to say there's a chance there for Leclerc maybe to pull some points back. The Red Bull it's not been inconsistent recently, but it has had inconsistencies this year. But after today and seeing the way Perez and Max both drove, how Red Bull coped, I think that's it, to be honest. How does it get better? He keeps on doing that race after race after race and pummels everyone into the ground for the rest of the season. I think I would enjoy seeing that, a pure dominant Max season. I'd love it.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. And in the post race interviews as well, a lot of the drivers, well, more than a lot, pretty much all of them were sort of giving plaudits to Max on the performance today. I mean, not only are Red Bull in a league of their own, but sort of Max seems to be in a league of his own within the team as well, compared to Sergio Perez. And do you think, Isidro, do you think it was a bit of a statement from Max today that he's laying down a marker for that second driver title now?
Yeah, definitely. Today, Max, if there was any doubt, he just showed that he wants to renew the title. And Red Bull knows they need to call it and say Max will be our driver, and Sergio Perez will just need to do anything he can do to help. I mean, if they just keep up the pace as they are doing now, Red Bull will finish way ahead of all the constructors, and both Max and Perez will finish way ahead of their competitors as well.
Yeah,
and get the P1, P2.
Yeah, it was some marker to lay down today. And look, I'm a Ferrari fan. And I know Ferrari fans hate to hear it, and even the neutrals probably hate to hear it as well. But I mean, as Isidro was saying about how far they could finish ahead of everybody else, it is pretty much unlikely at this stage, Scotty, that anyone's going to catch them. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I said it earlier on. That I think that's pretty much it for the season. and the dynamic between Max and Checo has kind of been pretty clearly laid in the sand there today. There was a point when Checo was ahead and Max was talking to the pit wall saying, look, we're kind of losing a bit of pace here. Max just breezed past him, and I think that was it for the season as well. It's fairly clear Max is number one, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't see anyone else. Unfortunately, like I said, we came into the second half of this season now, or the second part of this season, thinking that Ferrari might fix a few issues, and obviously they were going to be the closest challengers, but I don't see that happening now. And not just for Ferrari incidences happening with Ferrari, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. I just think purely on the dominance of Red Bull today, like, again, forget about it being track specific, forget about Max having the power unit, the change of power unit. So obviously he had the performance advantage there. I think it was just, it would have still been dominating regardless. And I mean, look, his teammate then Perez picked up the P2 as well. So, they maximized points this weekend, even got, Max obviously getting the fastest lap as well. But maybe Perez got a little bit lucky as well in the way things kind of panned out for him. I mean, he must have spun the wheels for about 8 minutes there on the start of the race. He seemed like he was going nowhere with the rest of the world passing him by. But he retook Russell. Then there was the collision, obviously, with Alonso. Ham brought him back up to P2, and then he sort of just controlled it from there. He got caught out, obviously, then on the restart after the safety car came out. I think Sainz locked up going into the chicane and then slowed up the pack a second time. So I think maybe he got caught out by that, but I think that was his opportunity, had that not happened, maybe to take Sainz for the race lead. But that being said, he still finished 9 seconds ahead of Sainz at the end of the day, again, on an older power unit. So this kind of goes back to what I was saying before about Red Bull being dominant. Forget about Max's power unit upgrades. Checo did this on sort of his old power unit, and still managed to finish 9 seconds ahead of the Ferraris. So what do we make of the drive today, Isidro, from Checo? I mean, he's moved up to number 2 in the standings. Do we think he's will he hold that number 2 for the rest of the season now? Finish up behind Max at the end in the driver's title?
Yes, I'm sure that Checo will stay in the second position, protecting Max if needed. But he'll definitely has the skills and the confidence to finish second. I mean, his closest opponent will be Leclerc, and he's already 5 points below. And actually, both drivers, Ferrari drivers, are just below Sainz, below Perez.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure he's confident enough and definitely has the car. I mean, even old power unit, he was able just to get ahead of the other 2 drivers. So yeah, I see Perez finish in a very confident and safe second position.
Yeah, it is looking that way, isn't it? As like the Ferrari drivers seem to be dropping back further and further as the races go on. But speaking of Ferrari, I mean, they had absolutely no answer to Red Bull's ass kicking they were handed today. And again, I mean, let's not pull any punches here on this one. It was an absolute ass kicking they were handed today, and totally embarrassed on the track. I mean, they did have some issues that possibly could have corrected some of it. I mean, the setup today, I think, wasn't correct. They went for a higher downforce approach, maybe not the right decision to make. Again, in hindsight, high tire degradation. I don't know whether that was down to the setup or the track. And then, of course, then was talk of the technical directive being brought in or being enforced today from today, which was obviously for this race weekend, which was to address the porpoising. So as far as I was aware, Ferrari had to raise the ride height of the car slightly as well. So all that combined obviously would have sort of reduced the performance on track. But again, not to the degree that we saw what unfolded. So, I mean, I just don't think even if they had corrected all those issues, I think the dominance Red Bull had today would have still gone pretty much unanswered by Ferrari. And I mean, with that in mind, Scotty, what did you make of Sainz managing, with that sort of handicap that they had, so to speak? What did you make of Sainz managing to hold on to that last podium spot? I mean, he probably got a little bit lucky there with George Russell. I mean, he had a little off, or not an off, but he had a little moment on turn 14 in one of the sort of closing laps, which sort of took the pressure off Sainz. But he held on there for that final spot. What do you think?
Yeah, there's always this little thing in Sainz's driving that you're just waiting for something to happen, a little slip from here or there. I don't know whether that is to do with not being used to the car, or whether it's a temperament thing, or whether it's concentration. But he does tend to slip here and there, and that's why I wouldn't really. That's why I would put him in sort of that number 2 position in my head at Ferrari. But he did well. No, he did very, very well, considering what he was up against. The 2 Red Bulls today were just Goliaths. He never would have stood a chance anyway. So he did well, I think. But there's just everything about Ferrari. There's always just these niggly doubts about them, and it's in my head anyway. It's not going anywhere.
But alarming that. Sorry to cut across you. Just alarming as well, though, that at least whatever about the issues going on within Ferrari in terms of reliability and poor strategy and things like that, they still had a car that had performance. But today, I mean, it looked like Mercedes had a car that was either on par, or you could argue perhaps if Hamilton was still in the race, Russell didn't make that mistake in the closing laps of the race. I mean, Mercedes could have ended up, in a 3rd, 4th position, and Ferrari down in a 4th, 5th, or sorry, a 5th and 6th position. So, I mean, look, it's all speculation, I guess, but I mean, it did appear that, the performance has sort of disappeared for this race. Look, we'll hold that, or put a pin in that for the Netherlands race and see how they bounce back.
Yeah.
But I mean, on the issues with Ferrari, in the last podcast, actually, we discussed some of the issues that they had and what they could maybe resolve over the summer break. And one of them was sort of not taking on board the feedback from the drivers. And I thought that was a very important thing, because, like I said, I think that had impacted them in the first part of the season quite a bit, not listening to, sort of what their drivers were feeling on the tires they were on, and not sort of taking that into account when they were coming up with their race strategies or adjusting their race strategies on the fly. However, it just seems like that pendulum swung completely the opposite way today, where they were sort of asking Leclerc for him to tell them the race strategy. Yeah. And I mean, and that went on for the, in the lengthy radio conversation Leclerc had with his race engineer. And like, Azito, what do you make of that sort of radio call? I mean, surely they should have given Leclerc the best strategy to go on, and then let him give feedback as to whether he felt it was correct, or whether he felt he should stay on these tires or whatever, but not maybe asking him to tell them what the strategy should be going forward.
It's good that Ferrari was planning to ask or get feedback from the drivers, but I think, like you say, they went very far with that. I mean, having conversations over the radio and asking them, what do you want us to do? It's 80. They went from 8 to 80 in one race, and they should just ask for feedback, and then review their strategy based on the feedback, and not distract the driver with all these sort of conversations and what do you want to do, what do you want us to do, and stuff like that. I mean,
well, exactly. They should have
come to focus on the race.
Exactly. They should have come to him. Sorry to cut across. Exactly. But just to say on what you were saying there, they should have gone to him and said, this is the optimal strategy that we feel, given what where you're at the moment in the race. This is what we feel you should do. What are you feeling from the car? What are you thinking, Scotty, on that?
I was kind of half waiting for your man in the pit wall to ask him what he was up to over the weekend or something, like just to start having this random conversation with him. It was so
it
lengthy.
Was such a long conversation, wasn't
ridiculous. But did you see the conversation that Max had with the pit wall? It was they were talking about, was it tires, and Max just said, "Let me extend it a little bit," and the pit wall just said, "Yep, understood," and that was it.
And that's it, isn't it? I mean, Ferrari should have turned around and said, okay, we think to achieve 5th place, our target is 5th place, which they said to him, and that's our target now is 5th place, which is sad when you think about it, but our target is 5th place. To reach 5th place, we need to extend the stint on this medium set before we pit. Is that, what do you think? Is that achievable? How do you feel the tires are working? Can we do that? Instead, they just came off running off all the options and permutations, and you're just like, lads, what? You've just gone from the extreme of ignoring the feedback from your drivers to just sort of making Charles Leclerc the head of strategy at Ferrari.
Yeah.
It's, what are you doing?
Yeah,
but
ridiculous.
Look, I mean, in the end, he did get to P6. I mean, he should have had P5, but look, we'll get to that now in a second.
Yeah.
But he got P6. He had some bad luck at the start. I mean, there was one of the tearaways for a visor got stuck in his brake duct. I did consider, and look, I'm not 100% sure what damage this would have caused, but because he was saying that there was smoke coming from the front right. When they said it was the tearaway strip from a visor, I mean, I thought surely, I just thought that would have sort of melted or burnt off. I was wondering how much damage would that actually have caused to the brake disc. Granted, that's a gamble, hence why I'm not in charge of Ferrari. But
could be though.
Yeah, I couldn't do any worse. But yeah, you just wonder, like, surely that would have just burnt off on the brake tin. But look, anyway, they did what they did. They pitted him. But actually, the funny thing as well is Max Verstappen thought it might have been his tearaway strip. Did you see that in the post-race interviews? Yeah, no. He says that because I can't remember who it was. Someone went wide onto the gravel and kicked up dust. Yeah. And Verstappen said at that point, that's where he pulled off his tearaway strip and threw it out. So he was wondering whether it was his tearaway strip that Leclerc collected.
New strategies.
Just tearaway strips just fly. It's like Mario Kart throwing banana skins out. Oh, unbelievable. All right, we're getting off track here. But I mean, look, he came in, he did start to recover. He did well, especially on the second stint. He was starting to recover quite well. And then obviously, again, same was what happened with Sainz. The tire degradation just hit him hard, and he started dropping off from George Russell, like at a rapid rate of knots. I mean, at one stage, I think it was nearly like a second a lap he was dropping off from George Russell. So it was clear, though, they had to do something to try and maximize the points from the weekend. So, I mean, they brought him in then for the soft tires to go for the fastest lap. There was a sensor failure, though, which led to Leclerc speeding in the pit lane. Ferrari have said that sensor issue was as a knock-on effect to that tearaway strip getting stuck in the brake duct. Now, I'll leave that there in just open space. I'm not even going to leave my comments on that one. So that's what Ferrari said anyway. So he got a 5-second penalty, and they exited him from the pit lane alongside Alonso, snapping at his heels. And in the end, it cost Leclerc, because of that 5-second penalty and the close proximity to Alonso, it cost him the P5. So instead of getting, what was it? So it's 10 points for P5. They got 8 points for P6 and no fastest lap. So they ended up just losing out on 2 points because they decided to make that strategy. And just while we're talking about, previously we were talking about not listening to their drivers. Apparently as well over the radio, Leclerc said that he didn't want to risk it and come in for that fastest lap. But in the conversation, it was something to the effect of, I don't want to take the chance. I don't want to make the risk. Okay, thanks, Charles. Box. That was sort of the, not verbatim, but that's sort of the gist of how it went down. So, look, they had to make the gamble. I'm not going to slate them completely for it. They have to gamble. They have to try and get the points. There was a point there. What did you make, though, Scotty? Do you think it was the right call to go for that gamble, or do you think it was just another knee-jerk reaction for Ferrari?
I mean, the other side of this coin is if it came off, we'd be looking at it going, yeah, that was a good call, very good call. But like, it seemed to be just bad luck. If the sensor thing is to be believed, then that's absolutely pure bad luck on Ferrari's part. The other side of that as well is that if Leclerc did say, I do not want to come in, here we are again.
Yeah, Ferrari. We're back in that room again.
The circus has arrived back in town once again. And I guarantee you, if it was Max in that position and Max said, in fact, Max wouldn't have said, I don't want to come in. Max would have said, I'm not coming in, and would have kept on driving.
Yeah.
And that would have been fine. But it's just more of the same, isn't it, really?
Well, which you have to kind of that you made a good point there. If that had been Verstappen or Hamilton, and they didn't agree with that call at that point in the race, they would have just driven past the pit lane entry. They wouldn't have gone in, and they would have just, when the race engineer would have come over the radio and said, what's going on? We wanted you to box. He'd have just said, it's not the right call. I'm not doing it. End of story.
Yeah.
And that would have been sort of Hamilton and Verstappen's. So Leclerc should maybe, there is a bit of maybe you need to, I don't know, be a little bit more stern in your stance on that one. But I mean, go on, sorry.
Yeah, no, I do think he does all round need to be a little bit more aggressive with the pit wall. Just be a bit more aggressive in how he, or just not aggressive, just assertive in how he puts himself across. I think he's just a little bit weak in that. Yeah.
But I mean,
if he wants to be the number one driver in Ferrari, he needs to step up.
Yeah,
I agree with you, Scotty.
Yeah, and look, Ferrari weren't. It was it wasn't a train wreck of a weekend. I mean, it was from performance point of view, but from decision making, it wasn't. It wasn't a complete train wreck. But those issues still creeped in. I mean, even in qualifying, when Leclerc came over the radio in Q3, and he was asking about what's the story with the set of tires, and then his race director or his race engineer come over and goes, "Sorry, we have you on the wrong set." And he's like, "Okay, what do I do? Do I come in or do I?" Go, no, keep going. Keep going on your new set of soft tires that actually will have the lap time you're about to set now is not going to do anything for you. You're out of position now in terms of the sort of the cars that are going to be coming out and the position on track for doing another fast lap. So they then had to bring him in. They brought him in, left him in. Obviously, they didn't have enough time to refuel him and stuff. So they waited till Sainz came round so they could get the tow. Sent Leclerc out ahead of Sainz just at the bottom of Eau Rouge. And as far as I'm aware, Sainz ended up having to lift ever so slightly because he was getting close to the back of Leclerc. So it just now look, he still ended up sitting on pole for the race day. But look, we had this podcast last week about what could be fixed and would they fix it over the summer break? I think we've got our answer. So let's move on. Oh, and also I did like Alonso's response when he was asked about was he surprised in seeing Leclerc pitting, and he says Ferrari always does strange strategies and laughs. So true. So okay, look, let's move on from Ferrari. Mercedes, it was a good result from Russell. Again, they had the pace on Ferrari, I think. So it could have easily been a podium. But that sort of driver error came in there at the end, unfortunately, cost them a couple of tenths. But is it confusing how they got a pole position in Hungary, then they're 1.8 seconds off pole in Belgium, and then they have the race pace then to compete against the Ferraris who have magically lost some race pace. Do you think, Isidro, Mercedes are any closer to understanding what's going on with their car? I mean, even Toto comes out and says, it's great we get we got the pole position, but we don't actually understand how we got pole position. So do you think maybe they should do what, I mean, Hamilton was interviewed and he said that basically he thinks that Mercedes should now just focus on the 2023 car and that should be the end of it. What do you think? Do you think he's got a point there? Do you think that this season's done now? There's probably nothing to gain. Run the car you have and just focus on 2023 now.
Yeah, I think they are very far away from getting the top spot as a constructors, but they definitely have a chance in getting the Ferrari and reach the second place. So I think it's a bit too soon for them just to drop, and like Hamilton was saying, they can still focus on this season, get the second spot as a constructor, and even the pilots. I mean, George Russell can, if Ferrari keeps doing what they're doing, and Mercedes keep their pace at the moment, George Russell could definitely finish in the third place.
Yeah.
So I think Mercedes just they may not understanding their cars, but whatever they're doing, they can definitely finish second as constructor and get one of the drivers in P3.
But at what cost, though? I mean, could this impact the development of the car in 2023? So, I mean, you have to look at what happened with Ferrari. Like they just completely bailed out and went with and just focused on the new regulations, the new car. So, I mean, is there a bit of they've got the direction of this car wrong? They're doing the best they can with it, but they've got the direction of this car wrong. And maybe make the most of it. Don't obviously you're not throwing in the towel. Make the most of it. I mean, they're possibly going to get second in the constructors' title anyway, thanks to Ferrari just making an absolute holy joke of themselves. So, I don't know. Do you not think maybe just on that on those grounds they should just kind of say, do you know what? Let's try and get a car that's going to be capable of challenging for the title next year.
I think they still have time to get the comfortable position to get the second before they get the eyes out of this season completely and just focus on the next one.
Yeah.
And they could get a bit more understanding of this car, and maybe that would help with the season 2023.
Yeah.
But I think they still have a few tricks to show. I mean, the second part of the season has just started, so still a lot of points in the game.
Yeah, I mean, still, excuse me, still 8 races left. So, I mean, I don't think we did think maybe sort of, especially coming out of Hungary and stuff like that, we thought, maybe there is a race win on the cards for Mercedes in the second half. But I mean, unless, Red Bull just explode, don't see anybody beating them. But I mean, Hamilton. So, speaking of because we were just chatting about Hamilton, but on Hamilton, he had a good start today, good start off the line. Then ended up squeezing Alonso. I'm not sure whether it was into turn 5 or turn 7. He squeezed Alonso on the apex and caused the collision. Some strong words from Alonso in the heat at the moment, referring to him as an idiot, and I think he said something to the effect of "That's what happens when you're not used to start. When you're only used to starting from first on the grid."
Yeah.
Now, granted, look, Lewis put his hands up, took the blame for the incident to some extent. I mean, he just sort of referred to it as he was in my blind spot. Personally, I don't believe that. I think he just defended aggressively and was expecting Alonso to back out, and he didn't. So, because of that, though, Hamilton didn't get any sort of future penalty from the FIA. It was investigated from the race stewards. It was investigated, chalked up as a lap 1 racing incident. Do you think, Scotty, that's a fair outcome for what happened? Or do you think, again, like I was saying, Hamilton did defend too aggressively and his whole blind spot kind of excuse is a bit sort of lame, shall we say, to say the least?
Yeah, a lot of things played in Hamilton's favour here. The fact that he had to retire the car and Alonso didn't. Alonso finished the race. His sad walk back to the pit lane.
Oh, do you know what? When that happened, all I could think of was, in Family Guy, when Stewie goes, "Play that sad going away music from The Incredible Hulk." That's all I could think of.
So I think the stewards kind of took pity on him a little bit more than anything. I think he was just lucky that he didn't do a lot of damage to Alonso, because he could have got some sort of a penalty there. Probably should have, in fairness. It was hyper aggressive, and I love to see that as well. I wouldn't like to see him backing out either.
No, completely. You want to see them both kind of keeping their noses in that corner, but at the end of the day, if there is an accident and someone's to blame, at the end of the day, there should still be a penalty. And I think then there was just a verbal warning then to Hamilton for not going to the medical center as well after the incident. I'll be honest, I think that was all showboating. I think that was something about the whole nose piercings and jewelry thing. There was something there with that there was no, like, that accident wasn't a bad accident. The car went up in the air, but in terms of accidents from Formula One, that was not a bad accident. Yeah. So for them to make a big song and dance that, we gave him a warning now because he didn't listen to us by going to the medical center. have a relax. That could have been done behind closed doors. There's no need for that.
Yeah, agreed.
But some honourable mentions, though, from the race. There was some absolute belting overtaking going on with Alonso and Ocon. The Alpines, I just think, had, as a team, I think they had a spectacular race. More so Ocon. I mean, he was doing triple overtakes and double overtakes. He was on it today, I think. And so I want to focus on Ocon, Isidro. Like, some of the overtakes, like I said, they were absolutely incredible. Do you think now he's at a point in his career that he could take that number one driver spot at Alpine and lead the team if they bring in maybe a rookie driver or something like that?
Yeah, I think now that Alonso is out at the end of the season, Ocon is trying to show the team that he has what it takes to be the number one driver. And I think that he wants to do. And he's been pretty consistent. I mean, he only retired once so far, and I think it was only on those races he finished out of the points only 2 times. So he's a pretty consistent driver. And today, the amount of overtakes he did, he proved that he has the skills.
Yeah,
he can definitely take the number one seat in Alpine, and see who they get for number two.
Well, some brilliant. There was some absolute brilliant overtaking and stuff that sort of reminisced of Mika Hakkinen and stuff like that, because they were sort of saying about that after the race, and Ocon, I think he was talking to Anthony Davidson or whatever, I think it was, on the Sky Pad afterwards, and he was saying that actually Mika Hakkinen actually came around to the garage before the race just to kind of wish him good luck and stuff like that. So just funny. I thought it was a nice touch, but I did think it was very similar, some of the moves that he made, and similar corners as well. So, but another driver who had a incredible, well, low key but an incredible race was Pierre Gasly. I mean, there wasn't much talk of him through the commentary and stuff like that the race director didn't give him much coverage, but started in the pit lane after an electrical issue with the car. I think there was some issue that was preventing the car from starting, but went from the pit lane, finished P9, which I think that's just an absolute incredible drive from him. And I think with the fact that he's got now this strong link with the empty Alpine seats, I suppose that's not going to do him any harm. What do you think, Scotty?
Yeah, this season for Gasly, he's been putting in some okay performances, but as you say, under the radar seems to be his thing this season. He's just kind of tipping away there, doing little bits.
Yeah,
I haven't really noticed him at all. Like today, I didn't really notice him much. You mentioned the Alpine seat. When you look at the standings, like Mick Schumacher, Gasly, and Ricciardo are all in and around that same sort of area. But if you're that Ocon shout about being the number one driver, I think that's a good move. And the only one really that makes sense to bring in there is probably a Mick Schumacher into the Alpine seat. But in saying that, Gasly today, he was he had a great race. I don't think that pushes him ahead of anyone else for the Alpine seat, though. I don't think.
Well, it's unfortunate that for some reason the Haas car has gone backwards all season. Yeah. Like all season, and the new updates are just doing nothing for them. So it's, Mick's having an absolute torrid time trying to show his worth in Formula One and show what he can actually do. And I mean, there's no point in saying, "Oh, that's Mick Schumacher." He's not the driver everyone thinks he is, or he's not as good as K-Mag, because K-Mag finished equally as poorly in the last couple of races since the major overhaul of the car. So just as a team, I think they're just starting to slip backwards. But yeah, it does raise the question, like, as well, like you're saying there, who does take that seat at Alpine? You've got Ricciardo, you've got Gasly, and Schumacher, sort of the three names touted around. I know Hulkenberg's name is sort of down there on the list somewhere, but those three. But I mean, if Ocon's going to be sort of seen as the team lead, the number one driver, and they want to maybe have a clear distinction there, then Ricciardo's not the man to bring back, because then Ocon's sitting back as number two. So then you're going to upset the chemistry and the sort of the, you're going to upset basically Ocon's side of the garage at doing something like that, especially if he's feeling that he's earned that number one spot. Gasly probably on equal footing with Ocon in terms of experience and where he sees he has at his career. So, like you said, you were saying about Schumacher. I mean, that is literally the only driver you bring in, someone who's just out of his rookie kind of years, and would be happy to play second fiddle to Ocon.
Mm.
But anyway, I digress. I move on. So look, that's it for Belgium. But before we go, Latifi brought out a safety car again.
I thought you weren't going to talk about it.
Oh no, I have to mention that Latifi brought out a safety car. Whilst his teammate finished in the for the Belgian Grand Prix. Look, like I said, I enjoyed it. I thought, unfortunately, it was a shame that Max didn't drag out that climb through the grid, but it was thoroughly enjoyable. Now, it's been a while since we've done this, so we're a bit rusty, but let's jump back in. The mid-season break is over. It's time for the predictions.
Yes.
So let's give everyone a bit of a recap here. Oh, Jesus, I forgot. So I'm Dave Jericho, 6 points. Owen Scott, also on 6 points. And Isidro on 3 points. So let's have a look where we stand this week. So, right. I had to finish with a win, Max Verstappen.
Yeah, 1 point. Well done, Dave.
That's where it ends. I had...
No, well, not really, no.
Well, second, I had Leclerc. Yeah, goose egg.
Yeah.
And third, okay, I just about had Sainz.
You saved it there.
Just about. So, Scotty, who did you have?
I went for a Verstappen win. So I get a point. Then went for Sainz number 2, which for a part of the race I was very excited. And then which didn't happen. Yeah. Yes, it was a bit overexcited.
Yeah.
And then Hamilton 3, which didn't happen either. Might have happened, only for he went right into Alonso. So
Alonso's wheel.
yeah, 1 point.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Right. Okay. Isidro. Jesus.
Yeah, I was very naive. Did Ferrari learn anything during the break?
No.
I've
Go
got
on.
Leclerc first,
All right.
Sainz second, and George Russell third.
You are close on Russell, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, hang on a second. Let me just bring up the results. Sorry, bear with me here.
We were not feeling Red Bull, were we? Oh,
What are you talking about? Well, oh yeah, sorry.
That's what I'm looking at.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the
next
next
section.
part. All right, hang on, bear with me. Let me see here. So let me pull up the results here. Okay, so my flop was Sergio Perez. I thought he was due a DNF, and it did not happen. So, Scotty.
Yeah, same as I went Perez DNF.
Yeah,
Didn't happen. I'm not doing that again ever.
Isidro.
Verstappen DNF.
Yeah, Jesus, there was hate for Red Bull this week.
we have learned. We have learned.
Yeah.
What was your surprise, Dave?
Oh, Jesus, Mick Schumacher. 0 points. I mean, like he possibly had his oh no, he actually, I thought he finished behind Latifi for some reason, but he actually didn't. So success.
I went Sonoda top 10, and it looked as if he was going to get that up until the last 10 laps, I think.
Yeah,
He was in the
P13.
top 10.
Oh, and look at the legend himself.
Yeah, look at
Who'd
this.
you have, Isidro?
Yeah, Gasly top 10.
Yeah,
Good
that was
shout.
a P9. That was a good result. However, not enough.
No.
I
No.
take the victory this week
Yeah.
with
boy, Dave.
2 points to 1 and 2 Isidro's 1. So that means David is on 7 points, Scotty on 6, and Isidro remains on 3. Jesus, Isidro, you're struggling.
Yeah.
He did arrive a little bit later than us, in fairness.
When did he arrive? For the Monaco, wasn't it? Yeah, Monaco. I'm just looking here.
Yeah, so we had a few under our belt.
So, what's that?
That
1,
stage.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
It
No
was
excuse.
4.
There's 8 points there to be won, Scotty.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
All right. So my top 3 for Netherlands is
think we all know what our top threes are going to be.
Yeah.
Oh, well, actually, well, hang on a second then. I think you might be surprised with mine.
All right, go on.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah, you might laugh. All right, well, the first one is obvious. It's Max Verstappen.
Yeah, no surprise.
No. Number 2, though, I'm predicting that Ferrari might resolve something and Leclerc. The fuck? Leclerc P2. And here's where it gets even more interesting. I'm going with Lewis Hamilton P3.
Yeah.
All right, Scotty, who you got? Who's your top 3?
We were of somewhat of a similar mind.
Well, I can just type Verstappen in, can I?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, we might as well do that for the rest
For
of the
all
season.
3 of us, I think.
Yeah. Max number 1. Don't want to lose any points there.
Yeah.
So Max number 1. Perez number 2.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm going to go for Russell number 3. And Mercedes is going to be in the top 3 next week for sure.
Yeah, I think so
Feeling
too.
it.
Isidro, just type in Verstappen for you as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Verstappen first, Perez second, and Leclerc third.
Oh, Leclerc. Right.
Ooh, okay, we got a little bit of a mix up here. All right. My flop is going to be Carlos Sainz.
Oh.
And
Ooh.
I'm going to go with a DNF.
Jesus.
I think he's going to have a DNF.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I just have a feeling there's going to be an engine issue. I just think I can't remember when he fitted that engine. Like Leclerc's after taking a new engine, Sainz hasn't. Like, I mean, he only had a fire earlier on, so I mean, he's due another one.
I think, what's going to happen is the pit crew are going to come out, and instead of putting petrol in his car, they're going to put M&Ms in or something.
Diesel.
Yeah.
Diesel from diesel from
green diesel
from the DHL trucks that are used to haul their gear.
One of them will be juggling something, no doubt.
Meanwhile, a DHL truck is taking off like a rocket with his 10% ethanol fuel.
Jesus, might get my delivery on time.
Yeah.
My flop for next week is Sebastian Vettel. And I'm going to say DNF.
Oh, DNF. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think it's going to be a crash or reliability? Doesn't matter. You don't have to
I think
mark it down.
reliability, but I'm going to say DNF for Vettel. And he was top 10 today. He was number P8, which was a great result, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, well, actually, we didn't mention that earlier, actually. Yeah, Vettel did a stellar job today.
Yeah, very good.
Isidro?
My flop after the praise I give Ocon, I'll say flop will be Ocon out of top 10.
Jesus.
I'm finding it hard to bet against Alpine at the moment.
Yeah, they just seem to be they seem to have sewn up that kind of 7-8 position, 6-7-8, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Outside top 10. All right, interesting. Surprise. I left it there. Actually, when the season's over, I have to go back and check how many times I've done this, because I think it's a lot.
We've the same surprise, I think.
No, I doubt it. Well, I'd be surprised if we do. I'm going with Schumacher.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. All right, Schumacher, I've gone with top 10. So,
yeah, me too.
All right, Scotty's gone with Schumacher, top 10 as well.
It's going to happen for him. What's your reason?
For the top 10?
Yeah.
No other cars. Finish.
I think there's going to be a bit of cars in front of them going out. Like I'm going to say like sort of like 15 cars are going to finish the race, that type of thing. And he'll, maybe from this race with the fact that Magnussen and Schumacher both ran all the upgrades, they might have learned a bit more to optimize it for Zandvoort. But so I just think they're going to be able to pull a bit more out of that car than they have been. So, but I do think as well there's going to be the assistance from other cars going out. Your Vettel DNF being one of them, and my Sainz DNF, and Ocon outside top 10. All right.
Yeah. I think Schumacher has a little bit of an eye on that Alpine scene. Obviously, he does. Everyone's on their best behavior, and I think he's going to pull something out of the bag now to the end of the season.
He has to, like, if he wants to stick around in F1, he's got to show the goodies.
Yep.
All right, Isidro, the last one.
My surprise will be both Aston Martin get points.
Oh, that's a new
both.
one. Wow,
Yeah, we've never had that
twist.
before. Yeah, I like that.
Plot twist.
That was good, Isidro. I like that.
Yeah, Aston Martin both in top 10.
That's interesting. I like that bet.
That's
a
a
new
good
dynamic.
move. That's a good move. I never even thought of using that as an option. I didn't even know it was an option.
Yeah. That was nice, Isidro. I like that.
But I mean,
okay. Although if I get that, that means that Scotty, your Vettel DNF will not come through.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we're betting against each other directly.
but I don't think you're going to really care about that, Isidro. That's
Yeah,
the
in fairness.
case. No. I think your downside will be Stroll getting inside that top 10. I just have a feeling Vettel's.
Yeah.
There's more chance Vettel getting in that top 10 than Stroll. But wow, both in the top 10. All right.
Impossible, but definitely a surprise. I'll
Yeah.
give you that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
May the Lord be with you. All right, that's it for this week's episode, folks. Not long to wait now for the next one, as we're back for the Netherlands Grand Prix in a week's time. So that should be interesting. As always, if you want to get in touch with your questions, comments, or corrections, send them on to feedback@latenightRaceView.com or anywhere you find us on social media. Until next week, though,